nmap stands for network mapper, and it is a networking utility that scans a network and the devices connected to it to return us certain properties that we are interested in. In this video, we will look at nmap in detail. For this purpose, I have prepared up a short graph which we will use to study nmap. So here I have a graph, and the default syntax for nmap is sudo nmap, which can work without the root privileges as well, but it's better to have root privileges because there are certain packets which nmap sends that requires you to have higher privileges. After that, we have options. Options consist of the type of scans we want to perform, the scan timing, the ports, and there is something down here as well called detections, which we will look at as we go on. Then we have domain or IP. So nmap can work either on a domain or you can supply it an IP and it can work there. After that, there is output. Nmap has some default formats for output, but you can always use the redirection symbol for taking outputs into a file. Now, this is the convention order of writing commands, but you can move things around and it's still gonna work. But just make sure that when you pass in some switch that requires an argument, then you pass that argument just after that. So for instance, if you type in -og for output, then you must supply the file name just after it. Alright, let's see the type of scans. I will click on it, and here we have a couple of scans. We have the TCP connect scan, TCP syn scan, and UDP scan. These three are the most used one, and by default this is the scan that nmap performs. This is also called the stealth scan. It used to be stealthy, but it's not stealthy anymore. As such, any enterprise with good enough security can detect that you are scanning them if you're using this scan. TCP syn scan is default, and you generally do not ever need to mention this scan separately unless you want to do something explicit with the type of scan you are choosing. So let's look at these scans one by one. The TCP connect scan works with sending from system 1 a syn packet to system 2, a synchronization packet. Then system 2 responds with a synac packet. So it's basically saying, hey, I am system 1 and I want to connect to you. So I'm sending you a syn packet asking, hey, are you there? The system 2 is saying, yes, I'm there and you can connect to me. After that, system 1 sends an acknowledgement packet. Okay, I received the message that you are present there and I'm connecting to you now. But what happens is it then sends a reset flag because we are using nmap, and nmap is scanning, it's not connecting, so it sends the reset flag after it sends the acknowledgement flag. So the connection was made, but then it was immediately broken. Alright, now as compared to TCP syn scan, if we were to talk about that, let me go there. So here we have system 1 and we have system 2, syn packet, synac packet, and then there is reset. So the connection was never actually made. The synac packet is mandatory to be sent because we are working with TCP, and TCP must have a synac packet. Moving on, we have what's called UDP scan. UDP scan is something which you won't do as frequently as you would do with TCP scan. The reason is that UDP takes a lot longer than TCP, and unless you are tasked to perform the UDP scan of an entire enterprise network, you will just be limiting yourself to maybe top 100 or top 1000 ports in UDP. Now UDP is connectionless. That means there is no connection between the two systems that we are communicating with. So we have system 1 and we have system 2. Think of it this way. We are in a park and I start throwing balls at you. Now I'm not telling you that I'm throwing balls at you. You just have to catch it. And I don't care if you catch it. If the ball is missed, it is missed. I would never try to do any sort of retransmission of the balls. So it's like, hey, I'm giving something, but after I give something, it's not my responsibility. So how do we determine that the certain port is open when we talk about UDP scan? Well, for that, what we do is we check out, or nmap basically check out the ICMP packets that are present there. Alright, so that's for the UDP, and it's better to scan the top 100 ports in there because it's a lot slower than TCP, which I have already covered. Now you don't have to worry about these two scans, you won't ever use them. in general you will always use this scan, and even then you won't have to explicitly mention it. Nmap picks it by default. And since we're talking about the defaults, in this entire syntax, the IP or the domain is the mandatory one which you have to provide. Rest everything Nmap can pick for it itself. Everything else is a default one. Now there is one called ping scan. Ping scan is basically not to determine the port versions or to determine the operating system. It's saying, hey, are you there? And that's it. Alright, think of it like you type in ping google.com. So it sends the packet to Google just to make sure that you have an internet connection, that Google is there, right? Now let's talk about scan timing. Scan timing is important because depending on how fast or how slow your scan is going on, it can be detected by firewall or the network administrators. So it ranges from T0 to T5, where T0 is the slowest and T5 is the fastest. T4 is a great speed to be at as it gives good enough speed and there are fewer chances of getting picked up in the presence of good security. T4 works pretty well, and I would suggest that you stick with either T3 or T4. After that we have ports. There are various methods we can determine or mention port to the Nmap syntax. We can type in -p-, it will scan all 65,536 ports. We can type in -p and we can give the port numbers, so I can say 22, 80, 137, and it will scan those selected ports. We have -top ports, and I need to give it a number, so -top ports 100. That means I want to scan the top 100 ports. Then we have -p ranges, so it scans the port of a particular range. Alright, so like from 1 to 1000. We write it this way, 1 to 1000. Alright, then we have -app. It is used to scan the top ports really fast, so it might miss something because it's going like really quick. Now moving on, we have something called detections. What do we want to detect on the devices that we are scanning for? So -s we determine the service versions. -o enable OS detection, so you might want to detect OS. It's important to note that it is not as good as it used to be. Nmap always gives you kind of a percent aside from OS determination that hey, it is this much sure about the percent that this OS is this. Then we have -a and it combines everything. In fact, let me show you -a in the Nmap help page. So here I have -a. This detects OS, the version detection, the script scanning, the trace route, and that's it. Yeah, it determines these 4 things in your Nmap scan. So if whether you use -sv and -o for OS detection or you use -a, it's all the same thing. Let's go back to our graph. One thing that I would suggest is that if you are scanning like a really big network which has maybe 100 or 1000 of hosts, then you might want to avoid -a because it might slow you down. It's not necessarily going to slow you down, but it might slow you down since it's going to determine a lot of things. So what I would suggest you to do is you just scan for open ports there, and once the ports are determined, you select the specific ports that we want from -p, and then you use -a on top of those so that you can determine that these ports are open. Alright, the last one is -pn. Now it is used to skip OS detection and others altogether, and it's only used when we know that the host is up. We are sure of it, but it's not responding it because maybe the firewall is blocking it or some sort of other idiosyncrasy that is playing the part. But -pn is the command that is present there to make sure that the OS really responds to our query. I think the graph is pretty much done, right? So let's go to Nmap and see it in action now. By the way, I'm using Kali Linux with Ubuntu Mono Nerd font, and here I have Windows Server. So I have did that, and here I have the IP. So 192.168.254.184, and let's go to my Kali Linux back. I want to type sudo nmap -a to scan for OS detection and service scanning and all the sort of stuff, -t4 to have good enough speed. This is the IP that I want to scan. -og prints the output in the greppable format in this location. let's not use desktop and let's use /temp server 2019.txt since we are using Windows Server, and it's gonna give you more of a really precise result. Please note that if you're using something like Ubuntu or the Windows 10 native OS for performing nmap there, what will happen is all the ports that will return as the answer will be closed or filtered. The reason is that those ports do not need to be opened. There isn't any need for services that nmap is looking for to be present there. That's not a server, that's a home system. Alright, that's why if you're doing it, make sure that either you use a Windows Server or a Windows Enterprise, or if you're using it on Ubuntu or something like that, then make sure that you allow the firewall to have the traffic in an outgoing manner. Alright, let's hit enter, type in the password, and it's gonna take a while. So we have the scans returned from nmap. We have 989 filtered ports that had no response, so the firewall blocked it or maybe something else happened. Then we have the port that's these are present one, 3269 TCP wrapped. Alright, services, the version, the state, and the port number, and the kind of connection that's working on. So it's working on TCP. The MAC address, it is detecting that I'm using it on VMware, and running, just guessing, is guessing that we are using Microsoft Windows 2019 with a 97% of surety. So well, that's correct, right? Then we have host script results. So SMB2 time, SMB2 security mode, the trace route that it followed. As you can see, there's one hop. Why one hop? Because this machine is on the same network that I am. Alright, so the router only had to make one hop to the packet, or the packet only had to do one hop to go there. It also has the domain, so minerva.local, and it's telling me Microsoft Windows Active Directory LDAP. Alright, so that's how you scan something with nmap. If you go to the nmap help page, so if I type in sudo nmap --help, though that doesn't matter, you can also use nmap sudo isn't needed here, but go down and here we have examples. So I can scan this domain name with nmap as well. If I copy it here and let's clear the screen, paste it, and again I can save the output to somewhere, so I can save it /temp/.txt. Let's wait for it to happen, and this time it won't give me any output on the standard output or on the terminal. Everything will be redirected to the scanmeresult.txt. Since we are at it, let's also go ahead and check out our -og file which we saved in the temp folder. I'm going to open up another terminal and let's go to cd/temp ls, and here I have the server 2019 and scan results. So server 2019 is the one I'm interested in. Let's use batcat and paste it. As you can see, it's telling me nmap, this version was scanned. The scan was initiated on Sunday, September at this time. This was the command that was used to scan it. The host, the status is up, and these are the ports that are available for us to work with or attack. The ignored state is 99, and yeah, that's it. The scan took 56 seconds and 32 milliseconds, I guess, right? Alright, let's see if the scan is completed here. No, it's not. Wait for it to happen. So here the scanning is complete, and let's go ahead and look at this file now. Let me copy it and use batcat to see it. So it has given me the result. Now it is exactly the same result which I would have gotten on the terminal. It's not a grabbable result, it's just showing me that the TCP22 is open, 80 is open, it's using the HTTP connection, and here the service running is SSH. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you liked it and you learned something new. If you did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone whom you think might be interested or will get benefited from it. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.